So there is potential for Africa to be a vanguard.
Just to complement on the infrastructure, how much of an enabler is that to inclusive growth, to more jobs creation?
So I think huge. Sorry, go ahead. Okay. So I think infrastructure absolutely vital, absolutely huge. As I mentioned already about the competitiveness constraints. I think we're in a bit of a unique position in that, as our own clients, we serve both governments and private sector on topics of infrastructure. And I think this question of private involvement is absolutely the way forward. Governments have realized they don't have enough money to build the scale of infrastructure that we're talking about here. And they've finally come to the realization that they don't have to build it, not all of them, some of them are realizing they don't have to build it in order for it to happen. At the same time, huge interest from around the world in building the next generation, the next wave of African infrastructure. And I think the pieces are starting to fall into place fine.
Okay, thank you. Let's go to
Gavino Garimba, actually integrated store technology. Just wanted to, I guess, ask a question because I believe that we at the time were just like I think we say it's a movement, and I think somewhat we need to own our own issues as Africans. Because I believe, for instance, I can give a case of what we went through because we're doing art research development. We went through the typical chain of talking to venture capitalists, just realized, I mean, the conditions that most of them offer, it actually makes no sense, or actually it's a robbery. So my question is, and again, to you all, is there a way that whether it be Cobank, McKinsey, or the World Bank, that anything of the funding that you do that has to do with Africa actually be open to us, the African diaspora, as stakeholders? Meaning, I mean, although we don't really truly leverage our capacity, but when you Google African diaspora, you see that 600,000, I'm sorry, last year. That 600,000 make an average $60,000 a year. Okay, so we have it. This is actually independent capital and resources that we have a stake to invest. And I think doing that, we can actually only have more say in what happens to our country, because money moves mountains at the bottom, at the end of the day. The decisions are best for us is not going to be made with people who don't have our interests at heart to begin with.
Thank you. Other questions? Yes.
Governments have limited resources, and if, for example, for your Ghana or Nigeria, because of everything we've got from oil, does it make more sense if we have any data to support whether it makes more sense to invest in education or infrastructure? I mean, we're facing each other close every day, so we have data to support
Can we start there?
Okay, thanks. On the question of how do you decide to invest in education or infrastructure, I think I come back to what Paul was saying in answer to the infrastructure question. Infrastructure is not an entirely public good. There's a huge private sector element to infrastructure because private sector benefit from infrastructure. They make money on infrastructure. So government actually may not have to spend a lot of money on infrastructure. They do, though, and this is very important, have to provide the policy and regulatory framework so that the private sector will feel confident that they can actually earn a rate of return if they come in and finance it. That's usually the problem. I think the big problem in infrastructure is not money, actually, as much as getting governments to implement the right regulatory policies. But it also actually applies to education, because there's an element to education that's a private good. And you're seeing that. I mean, you're seeing all these private things in Cameroon. Cameroon actually has 50% of primary education is privately financed. Because the public sector was failing so badly. Again, though, I think the public sector has a role to play, particularly to help poor people be able to get an education. But as you can see, those are the people that we're failing right now. So we need to come up with a way in which the public sector can concentrate on making sure that the poor people get access. And so I don't think it's a 0-1 thing. There is an appropriate mix, but it's not just an appropriate mix of funds, it's also an appropriate mix of policies.
Paul, do you want to comment on how to leverage the diaspora?
Good. So I think the question around the diaspora and brain drain, which are kind of two sides of the same question. I think Judy your comments as well. But I think in the end, the answer is a little bit the same as the answer on capital flight. That you can't control what people do or where they go, and if you do, you will shoot yourself in the foot very quickly. I think what you do is you make the environment exciting, and I think that's starting to happen. And 2 data points. The one is this room. I mean, there is a huge set of people who have gone overseas to study and are diaspora and are excited about the opportunities in Africa. And also, we've started to hear amongst a number of clients, and Julie, that to test this with you as well, starting to talk about returning diaspora as real sources of the sorts of work experience and skills that we've seen is the big gap. So skill strategies and clients are increasingly starting to hire a bunch of really smart locals who have been to school, but who don't necessarily have the advanced experience. And then you hire a few returning diaspora to be the sort of seed talent. And you set up a talent pipeline, and you really build a model for the future. I think that's exciting.
That's a significant part of our strategy as well in terms of the diaspora. I went to Carnegie Mellon, lived in the US for a while, worked for Chase, Citi, etc., but made a conscious decision. Although I was cognizant of the fact that I was taking a 40% pay cut, most of the things, infrastructure, etc., wouldn't be the same, but also realized and really knew that I had a commitment to where I was born and where I went to primary school. I only came to the US for tertiary education. So there's, it's a double-edged sword. There's sort of, we need to own it ourselves, and I'm talking to everyone in the room, to make a conscious effort. When we came to the site to get some skills and competencies to go back and build the continent as well. So we owe it to the continent. And not coming back thinking that everything will be the same at all. We're in a development space. And I think the development has been amazing. If I look at when I left Ghana to come to the US and when I went back, significant improvement. So it's a work in progress. So we all have a part to play in this. But then again, we on the other side, and now I am on the other side, in terms of inviting the diaspora to come back, need to set up strong infrastructures for people to succeed. After being away for 19, 20 years, it's kind of difficult to just come back and sort of just start rolling for people to succeed. So we at Ecobank, that's the strategy. And we have a whole database around that in terms of building the diaspora. So I'm happy to talk about a single person.
That was the report. Good. Unfortunately, sadly, our time is over now. I think that I want to thank, that was an insightful